Welcome back to Le Conversazioni. It's my great honor and pleasure to have on stage with me Colum McCann. It's completely my fault, but I didn't explain to Colum that he was supposed to pick hidden, forgotten films. I'm saying this because one is a very famous film, but it's an extraordinary one.
Yeah, but we have a scene in it that's not famous.
Yes.
That we're going to talk about a little bit.
And another one is beautiful, but certainly not unknown. I'm talking about the third one. Yeah. So only one of his films is a hidden gem. Why don't we start? We'll watch the first clip in a second, and then you tell us why you picked this film. So the year was 1975. The film is Mirror by the great Andrei Tarkovsky. Why did you pick this film?
Well, I mean, sometimes when I saw this film, and I was only alerted to it, I'd known about it for years, but I only really watched it recently. I saw it and I thought, that's the sort of language, filmic language, that I would, if I could teach my soul to speak, this is the sort of film that it would make. I think The Mirror is Tarkovsky's absolute masterpiece. And it's poetic realism, and the reason I was alerted to it more recently was that I wrote a novel called A Paragon, which is about Israel and Palestine and difficult territory.
It's an extraordinary book that I strongly recommend you to.
Thank you.
It's so
timely
also.
Yeah, and there's a director who's really interested in it. And I asked him, well, what sort of film would you like to make? And he said, well, I'd like to make something like The Mirror, about like Mirror. And I thought, okay. I mean, if you can make something even vaguely approaching that sort of thing, it would be fantastic. I just think that it talks, it uses biography and autobiography and poetry and in extraordinary ways, and the texture of it is not necessarily chronological or anything like that, but the texture of it gives you an insight into the filmmaker's soul.
Can you share with the audience briefly what A Paragon is about?
So A Paragon is a novel that's about two real-life characters, one Israeli, one Palestinian, who both lost their daughters in separate incidents, and against all available evidence became the best of friends. It's not, one of these stories where you bring out the violins and everything is triumphant. It's all about terrible difficulty and negotiating this. But really what it's about is about these two men telling the stories of their daughters like Scheherazade, in order to keep them alive. And I do believe that stories and storytelling, and we're going to talk about this this evening, I think is like, cheating death in many ways. The world is held together with atoms and molecules, of course, but it's really held together with stories. And stories are the things that keep us alive even when we're gone.
In the film, Tarkovsky, who is also one of my favorite filmmakers, likes to manipulate the audience. For example, there are two characters, the wife and the mother, and they're played by the same woman, by the same actors, which is confusing at the beginning. Why do you think he did that? Why? What is your reading?
I like the idea of confusion. In fact, I think the best answer that you can give to any question right now, and maybe I'll try it again tonight, is I don't know. Because we're living in times of very dangerous certainty. And I like to think of it in terms of like we build these canals of certainty, these man-made conduits for where our ideas are supposed to go. But really, in the floodplain between these canals of certainty is where the really interesting stuff happens. And so what Tarkovsky does is, I think he deliberately confuses in order to let you surrender to the confusion. And once you've surrendered to the confusion, you begin to actually feel the texture of the living moment. And that's really interesting to me. So instead of you thinking, well, it has to be A leading to B, leading to Z. You're just saying, oh, we're M and then we're S and then we're P, and you sort of begin to taste it in a different way. It's a very literary film, And, it uses a lot of literary techniques, including, of course, his father's poetry, in which he gets his father to actually read in the film. And it's so glorious. And the Russians have done such incredible things in literature and in filmmaking. But it feels to me a little bit like Mandelstam got his hands on the camera. And there he went from there.
Are you also a fan of other films by Tarkovsky? I personally love Andrei Rublev. I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think he made several masterpieces, but I do think that this particular film was the one where he put all of himself into it. You can feel all of him operating there, and there was elements of autobiography. And also elements of memoir, and there's a difference between those two things. But so it's kind of strange to say there's elements of autobiography and then elements of memoir, but some of it is invented. Like that scene, that opening scene, is really interesting. How static the children are, as if they're looking back at and there's a static person looking back at the memory. The rest of the film is not anywhere near as static as that particular scene. There's a house on fire. Their family house is on fire. Everything is aflame, and I think that it's a really interesting way to begin the film. Brave way to begin the film.
Before I show my first clip, there are 3-4 seats available here. I see people standing in the in the back. One here and one on the second row. 2 in the second row and 1 here. Okay, let's go now to my first choice, which is a documentary. Yeah. We can start. Thank you. This is a true story. William Friedkin in 1962 met at a party a chaplain of a prison. And he asked, do you know if there is anyone who is in jail and is innocent? And the priest say, yes, there is this guy, Paul Crump, who will be sentenced to death in a few months. So Friedkin decided to make a documentary, and it's basically saved his life because the documentary was sent to the governor. And
so the audio was real?
Yes.
But the film then was done afterwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the governor changed the
sentencing.
And the sad story is then when he went out of jail, he became an alcoholist. After 3 years in jail, knowing that he was going to die. What I like about this, not only the beauty of this visionary approach to this man, the idea that a film can save your life.
Yeah.
Literally can save your life.
Yeah.
And we say before, even books can do. Art can save a life.
Sure.
Did you know this film?
No, but I when I saw the clip, I thought it was absolutely extraordinary. I think my favorite thing is the shadow of the hand, and the hand getting ready, and then the sort of dreaded anticipation. Like, what's interesting to me is that you could watch something like this and you can feel something so viscerally, and yet you come out of it with your own body unscathed, but your brain is not unscathed. Your brain has taken something new in and understood something powerful. Seems to me that art has that sort of triumph, that it can make you understand something without, and almost feel it, but without having to suffer it in a certain way. But you've watched that scene, you can't ever forget it again.
And I was thinking what you just said about Sherazade and Arabian Nights. You keep narrating and telling stories in order to be alive.
In order to keep yourself alive, that's why I thought this was, this felt like I understood it, even in the tiniest clip. I don't know. Did you feel that in the audience, that there was something that was there that you'd seen before, but you'd never actually seen it? And now I desperately want to find out that story. I didn't know that he got out of prison and then became an alcoholic. It's a truly tragic story. There's a novel there, in fact.
Let's go now to your second choice. Is a very famous film, but it's also an extraordinary work of art, and it's also one of my favorite films of all time.
And there's a kind of hidden thing afterwards that I'm going to tell you about.
And I think it's one of the best opening sequence of all times.
Oh,
yeah. Do you remember the first line of the film?
Saigon.
Shit.
Saigon.
Shit.
That's right.
Okay, tell me about Apocalypse Now.
Well, what's really interesting about this, to me, so I wrote a novel. My most recent novel is called Twist. And Twist is a take on The Heart of Darkness. And it's about people who do underwater cable repair at sea. And of course, Heart of Darkness led to Apocalypse Now. And the narrator of the novel is very interested in Apocalypse Now. And he gets so interested in it that he locates a mistake. Now you're all going to go home and watch this now later on tonight. In the scene following the one that we just saw, where you know the one where he dances around the room, and he punches the mirror, and his hand comes back from the mirror, and then there's this necklace of blood across the sheets of the bed, and it's a beautiful examination of insanity, and it goes on for a couple of minutes. But one of the things that happens in the extended version of that scene is that Coppola is not sure whether he's going to tell Sheen to stop doing this, because he hits the. He wasn't meant to hit the mirror. He hits the mirror, stuns the mirror, and stuns the image of himself, retreats, and his hand is bleeding. That wasn't supposed to happen. And so the whole thing was like, do I say stop? Do I say stop? Eventually he does say stop, but they realize that the scene is so powerful and so beautiful because Sheen has already rolled across the bed and done all this stuff that that is going to be the scene. They captured sort of reality in this bottle, in the camera. And what's really fascinating is if you watch the scene and it unfolds and unfolds, he's naked, he's not wearing a wristwatch until the very last moment of the scene where they'd obviously cleaned him up and then put blood back on him and so on, and he's sitting on the ground, and for a fraction of a second there is a watch that that's actually a diver's watch. And my novel was all about diving and so it all sort of led in together. But of course, what's amazing about that scene is it's one of the ultimate war scenes. It's about, the man getting ready to go upriver to see what colonialism has done to the world, to see this war and what it has done to us and our mentality. But it's made up, as all art is made up. And yet we see it as one of the great scenes about war. Also, we think about Saigon. Immediately, there were a lot of you there, I'm sure, who thought, Saigon, yeah, shit, yeah, Saigon. It's shot in Manila, and as artists, all of our future filmmakers out there, you're dwelling in the real and the unreal. And how do you make it so that this stuff feels entirely true? And how do you create the appearance of truth and ease when you know that there's a couple of cameras in the room and someone has shouted stop and all of these different things are going on? How is it your job to create some sort of grand human truth out of this artifice that then becomes the truth for so many other people? Because when we think about Vietnam, we often think about this film, Apocalypse Now. So that's the hidden part of that. And just so go home and have a look and see if you can catch the wristwatch.
When he was preparing the film, Coppola, who as usual put his own money to finance the film, went to his mentor, Roger Corman. He said, can you give me some advice? I'm going to shoot a film in the Philippines. And Corman looked at him and said, don't do it. That was his advice.
Yeah.
And I want to say that Jim Morrison was a school friends of Coppola. They grew up together, and of course he died when he was only 27. And nobody ever used his music like Coppola did. And
Who starts a film with "This is the end"?
And it's incredible how visionary is this beginning, especially if you consider his previous film, The Two Godfathers, and The Conversation. Marvelous films, but the direction is almost invisible. Here it's so flamboyant. So
right, but also some obvious things that are being done, like the helicopter blades and the fan in the room.
Yeah.
That's kind of obvious, but it's done so beautifully that it triggers all this stuff in you. And
the way
the
helicopter appears the first time, it's so shocking.
Exactly. That first helicopter shot when it just comes across the screen, and then the napalm comes up afterwards. I mean, it would have been amazing. I mean, there's a great documentary made about the making of the film.
By Eleanor Coppola, by Coppola's wife, called Heart of Darkness, a Director of Apocalypse.
That's right. That's right. And it's funny how these films and these books influence films, and and there's this sort of rondelay of influence that's going on. And I just think it's one of the it's so much fun to sit down and watch it again. And any young people who haven't seen the film, is there anybody here who hasn't seen the film? You can admit to it.
Raise your arm.
Yeah, there's a couple of people. Wow, all right. There's like 5 or 6 hands. Amazing. I envy you. I envy you the fact that you got a chance to go in and to enter that. It's like how I feel about great books. Like introducing people to great books. I have this real envy that they're going to be able to go into that and spelunk into it for the very first time. It's kind of fantastic.
Okay, let's go to my second choice, which is a B movie. I cannot tell you in advance. Don't be shocked, but it's an intelligent B movie. So the entire film is based on this idea. Through these glasses, you can see reality, what really happens in the world. It's a very simple but high concept idea.
Yeah.
And the acting is terrible. And the cinematography is bad, but I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's fun, so fun to watch. The actor is not even an actor; he's a wrestler, and it's the only film, together with Escape from New York, which is one of my cult film, that made money for Carpenter. Did you know it?
No, I didn't know the film, but I thought it's great. I mean, it's lasted its time, right? I mean, it feels entirely right.
It was made in 1988, and it was his way to say how much he hated Reaganomics and Ronald Reagan.
Right.
So what we read here is a reference to President Reagan.
Yeah, but then, if you do something really good, it's sort of prescient, and it works in advance too, or it lasts.
Yes.
What's that line about literature? Literature is news that stays news.
Yeah.
So I suppose like really great filmmaking is news that stays news.
Can I ask who knows this film? Only a couple of... You do? Oh. Do you like it?
I agree with what
Okay. So I strongly recommend to watch the film. It's fun and it's smart.
But that's interesting. Like you said, it's a great idea. Like, because great ideas don't necessarily make great stories.
Yeah.
And I think the real great stuff we recognize because it tells us a story and doesn't actually impose an idea upon us, but that we get an idea from it. I mean, I suppose that's the real elegance of great filmmaking, is that it doesn't tell you what to think, but it allows you to think. So it's not didactic, because didactic is boring, right? Didactic belongs to politicians.
Nothing to do with art.
Yeah. I'm telling you, didactic is boring.
Let's watch now Colum's third film. And we both agreed that it's the greatest short story ever written.
Ever written.
I think it's very moving that John Huston, at the end of his life and it was his career, he was in a wheelchair when he directed this film, goes back to his roots and pays homage to his country. He was Irish. and to the greatest, of his novelists. But tell me, why did you pick this film?
Oh, there's so much about this film. By the way, it was shot in California.
Yeah.
But I just want to read you the last paragraph of the story. I meant to bring the book with me, and I brought my phone instead, and it's very rude to read from phone, but this is just the last few lines of this story. Yes, the newspapers were right. Snow was general all over Ireland. It was falling softly upon the bog of Allen and further westwards, softly falling into the dark, mutinous Shannon waves. It was falling too upon every part of the lonely churchyard where Michael Fury lay buried. It lay thickly drifted on the crooked crosses and headstones, on the spears of the little gate, on the barren thorns. His soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling, like the descent of their last end upon all the living and the dead.
It's one of the great endings.
It's one of the great endings. And what Huston does is he captures it. I mean, it's how do you make a film about such a literary story? How do you remain true to it? And he does. He remains remarkably true. He adds a character here and there, and he changes a few things. But in the end, the film is a beautiful portrait of the story itself. It's a great love story, and it's tragic in all sorts of ways. Angelica Huston, well, you see her there. I mean, it's the performance of a lifetime. Donald McCann, who's there with her.
Gabriel,
he was just like also like. Somehow, I don't know what Huston was doing or how he got them to this point. I had a wonderful time with Criterion Films recently.
Did you comment that?
And I got a chance to comment on that. It's just come out now. And commenting on the film made me realize, what an incredible work of genius this was. Look, Joyce's short story is remarkable in every sense, and I do think it's maybe the best short story, or amongst the best short stories, along with Chekhov, ever written. Now, to write a great piece of literature takes one person, but to make a great film takes so many people in unison. It's a miracle that a great story gets written, but it seems to me it must be a miracle of miracles that a really, truly great film gets made. And when it happens, it's a beauty to watch.
I think that Huston captures perfectly the idea that Gabriel understands that he doesn't know too much about his wife, but at the same time keeps loving her, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, in the story, he's jealous at first, and he gets his back up a little bit. But I suppose you were in love with this fellow, Michael Fury. And she says, yes, I might have been. We were good with each other back then, and all the sorrow is there until he finally realizes, oh my word, she was in love with him, but he's dead, and then he realizes what love is, and then he's left supremely lonely at the end of the story, and yet somehow Joyce brings it around with that last paragraph. The dark, mutinous Shannon waves and the snow faintly falling upon all the living and the dead. And for all the poets out there, I mean, the alliteration that's within that passage and just the way that it works is the way that a cameraman must want to make language. It seems to me that in writing good literature, what you want to be able to do, especially nowadays, is to become a language camera, right? And so if you can, I used to tell this to my students, be a language camera, and go into a place and paint it in such a way, or photograph it in such a way that everybody experiences it. It's almost like you walk into a painting, but it's also a moving painting, but it's all going with words. And, Don DeLillo, whom you know well as well, like one of the literary greats of our times, talked about the novel being able to contain everything, including cinema. And I'm really, I'm really interested in the way people push forms. And there's going to be some young artist who's possibly in the audience tonight or around us right now who's going to push the form of the film to include every single art form that is sort of conceivable. But one of the things that Huston did was he paid reverence. He paid reverence to history and he paid reverence to literature. And he pulled it off, and I'm in great awe of anybody who's able to do something like that.
Thank you. Let's watch now my final choice. It's a film that was never released here by a great filmmaker, which I happened to see at the world premiere in Venice a few years ago. It's very difficult to talk about Polanski nowadays.
Yeah, I was going to say, check, please.
The man made something unforgivable and horrible. The artist remains one of the great filmmakers of all time. And the composition here is incredible. The way he stages all this degradation, the dark sky, and the dignity of Dreyfus. It's a film that says a lot about racism, injustice, but at the same time, it's never sentimental, and it's always restrained. And I like the way he respects the military element of this composition, but at the same time, he tells you something about each of the characters in 2 minutes, 3 minutes of filmmaking. Did you know the film?
No, but I've got 2 questions for you. So how do you separate the film from the filmmaker?
I don't. I mean, I do. I mean, any artist. I mean, let me give you a clear example. Leni Riefenstahl was a terrible human being. Had abominable ideas. She was also very talented, and I think we should separate. Polanski did something horrible in 1973, I think, 53 years ago. He was forgiven by his victim. You can see a picture of the two together. Legally still guilty. He cannot come to this country, will be jailed immediately. After 1973, he made several extraordinary films, including this one.
Right.
I think we should separate. How would you, talking about the writer, Celine.
Yeah.
Celine wrote horrible things on the Jews.
Yeah, I know it's an extraordinary dilemma, and it is a dilemma of our times. I mean, do you separate the life, or does the life have to go hand in hand with the actual work? I mean, and what sort of taint comes with the two of these things? And I will say, I don't know, genuinely. I don't know. And I think it's okay to say at this particular point, I need to parse that and we need to, and you can have these two competing truths, because Niels Bohr, the scientist, talks about that at the end of one truth is an equal and opposable truth. And the idea, Blake, the poet William Blake, talks a lot about the idea of these truths being at opposite ends to one another. Fitzgerald, of course, talks about the essence of intelligence being the ability to hold opposable ideas in the palm of your hands at the exact same time. But sometimes you got to come down hard and on one side or the other, and it's difficult to know. But the second question that I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of facetious, but it's like, how in the world did he break that sword over his knee? And if it is true that you can break a sword that way, I'd be very surprised. But is it good filmically, or should he just have tried to break the sword and not have been able to break the sword?
I don't have an answer for the second question, but I go back to your first one. Actually, when the film was presented in Venice, the then president of the jury, Argentinian filmmaker Lucrecia Martel, declared that she wouldn't appreciate the film because of who Polanski is. And there was a huge controversy. The producer of Polanski film say, "Oh, it's fine, but then you should resign. You cannot be, the president of the jury." And then they found a compromise, and in fact, the film, although was by far the best of the festival, won only the second prize, probably because of this opposition of the president of the jury. She clearly has not the same idea that we have.
How many films do you watch? I mean, how do you like? You find all these hidden gems, right? You do. But how do you find them all?
This is what I do. I watch films.
But you read books and you write books and you do all these other things as well.
I wake up at 5 o'clock.
You do. And would you find a hidden gem in something that was just released last year, for example?
Yes. And every year there are so many forgotten, overlooked, underrated films. Yes. Next time I'll show you.
Do you think they inevitably, does the cream always rise to the top, or do some things get forgotten forever?
Yes. I am afraid that we forget and we miss great gems.
Right.
Unfortunately.
But that's why something like this is so important for you to do.
Now we have a tradition. When we end these evenings, I always show a comic relief. Tonight film, because we always show depressing films, so let's face it. Tonight is not a comedy, although it's a funny moment, and is directed by my favorite filmmaker, Federico Fellini. And it's a film that most of you probably know, Amarcord, and is about one of the characters, one of the protagonists of the film. Her name is Gradisca. She's a prostitute, and Gradisca in Italian means enjoy it. And you will see a scene where we understand why she's called Gradisca or enjoy it. And it's a scene where she sleeps with a prince.
So can I ask you, did you say enjoyed in the past tense?
Enjoyed. No, enjoyed. Wow, okay. Let's watch it. No comments. Grazie a tutti. Thank you, Colum. I look forward to having you back on February 23rd with Ira Sachs. Grazie, buonanotte.